Thanks, everybody. I am Dr. Jeffrey Jacquet. I'm going to zoom in sort of close into teaching an SIA course and sort of challenges, opportunities at the university. I'm assistant professor in the School of Environment and Natural Resources at Ohio State in Ohio in the United States, and teach a course on social impact assessment. I was a SIA practitioner for a number of years between my master's and PhD, and ended up in academia. Just wanted to give like a little bit of a context. I think impact assessment is an obscure career. I think as a number of people have mentioned, it's not something that people grow up wanting to be, at least that I'm aware of. It's sort of, people said like you just end up in it and you don't really, it's not something you planned. There's not really a clear trajectory for careers or for career development in SIA. The industry does a poor job of developing an SIA career pathway, and I think maybe the word industry is used loosely here. I think, people who are employed, it's a sort of a loose group of people who are consultants of a couple, consultancy firms, a couple of businesses or industries that have SIAs, but it's very amorphous, and I think that is part of the context that we're talking about. And there's very few courses or degree programs in social impact assessments. So I teach one class in social impact assessment, and that is one of the few, if only, SIA classes in the United States. And I know there's a little bit more opportunity in Australia and some other places, but I think it's fairly par for the course. Probably one result of that, perhaps, is that a lot of the SIAs tend to be, that we see, there's room for improvement, we might say. As I'll talk about in the class, we look at a lot of SIAs, we review a lot of SIAs in my course, and we see a lot of people performing SIAs who are not trained in social science, a lot of engineers doing social impact assessments, a lot of geologists doing social impact assessments. A lot of the SIAs we look at are pretty bad. And I think it's something that we, at this conference, we maybe lose sight of because, we are sort of the cream of the crop. I think a lot of us are doing great work, but that's not the case everywhere. So just a little bit of background on the course that I teach. It's junior, senior level undergraduates and also graduate students. And it fulfills an elective for the community development degree specialization. And I think that the idea there is that SIA offers a good introduction to a lot of different things, and that's helpful to people that are going into community development. But I don't think that the idea necessarily is people will become SIA practitioners, although that would be nice. The courses that I'm teaching have about 15 undergrads and about 5 graduate students is sort of the split. We are tracking towards offering an online certificates in impact assessments at Ohio State that would include sort of environmental impact assessments, social impact assessments, and then also some environmental law courses, and that'll be hopefully launched in the next year or two. So my course, I use Rabel Burge's textbook, Concepts, Processes, Methods, just because it's an accessible, sort of really simple, easy to use book. And then, numerous other readings authored by some people that I see in this room. We have a midterm, and then we have a mid-semester project where each student goes out and finds a real SIA that was done out in the world and then critiques it. And so each class we're looking at 20 or 25 real SIAs and looking at how they were done. And then there's a final project, which is sort of an individual or a collaborative social impact assessment, at least design, or hopefully in some cases actually going out and doing an SIA. Excuse me. For the class, I just wrapped up this spring. We actually did a social impact assessment for a proposed rooftop solar array on campus at Ohio State. It's a super small project, but all the components were there of the social impact assessment, and I think it was a good experience for the students. And We ended up surveying a couple hundred students and faculty, and did interviews, and the report's 60, 70 pages long. It's actually, I think they actually did a great job. However, it's not enough, I guess, even though they had a great experience. And I think SIA coursework is a tremendous sort of introduction to social science, to social change, to environmental planning regulation. These students get this really rich, diverse experience in areas that they probably hadn't even thought about before. And so it's really fantastic, I think, course to offer. But taking a course in social impact assessment, unlikely to produce quality social impact assessors, I guess is what I would argue. And for the graduate students in the class, I think perhaps it could offer an opportunity to become quality social impact assessor if they take the course and then they continue to sort of take advantage of additional opportunities. As I think the number of speakers had mentioned, I think it's hard to be a quality social impact assessor with just an undergraduate degree. There's just so many different things that you need to know. There's so many different sort of skills that you need to have, and I think a lot of those skills that you need an undergraduate degree before you can even get those skills. And so undergraduates, they're just sort of too green to, I think SIA work requires sort of a level of synthesis and abstraction that it's difficult for a 22-year-old student to have. And also I think you need to have the social science background. And as Chris and I were talking about earlier, a social science degree is something that most students usually sort of wander into halfway through their academic career. And so, so it's undergraduates. It's not a good fit for undergraduates, I would argue. And I think, for graduates, it is a better fit. They might have a undergraduate degree in a social science discipline, and then they go to graduate school and they take the course. But even then, if they take a course, they need to keep going. And I think maybe if they take the course plus a second more intensive course or a studio or a capstone or whatever you want to call it, and maybe also a master's thesis that focuses on sort of social impact assessment methods. I think that sort of combination would probably end up with someone that is on track for a career in social impact assessment. In the course, things that I run into, so we offer this course, and there's only so much you can offer in a single course. We talk about history, theory, the methods. We talk about 20 different case studies, but they sort of get no real on-the-ground training, and it's SIA is so contextually specific, and there's so many different aspects. There's so much more sort of advanced emerging concepts when it comes to social impact assessment that it's difficult to offer all that in a class. And so I think the result here at Ohio State is that we have a lot of undergraduates that are becoming exposed to social impact assessment. A lot of them didn't even know what social impact assessment was when they started, and so that's great. But they're coming out of this course nowhere near qualified to be doing social impact assessment in and of itself. And I think what requires is sort of a series of courses. What is required is a series of courses, a curriculum in social impact assessment, potentially at the graduate level. And I think at that point, that might work out well. However, as Will had mentioned earlier, that's extremely difficult to put into place at a university. This idea of offering several courses in a succession, that's a significant amount of sort of resources, of manpower, and there's real question as I think convincing my bosses to put that into place. It would be, we're considering it. We're thinking about it right now, but we haven't pulled the trigger on it yet, and it's sort of unclear as to how much demand there would be for that, how much consistency over time. Are we going to hire new, professors to be teaching these courses? And so it's sort of a chicken and an egg problem. Certification or accreditation, I think, would definitely help with that issue a lot, and it would offer us a roadmap potentially, depending on the certification and how it's designed, but tell us what we need to do. And I think if that was written in stone, quote unquote, by IAIA or for whomever else, we could take that to our bosses and to our administrators and say, this is what we need to do to be accredited or to offer our students certification in this. And I think that would potentially grease the wheels when it comes to offering these courses. And it could also create this increased and steady student demand for SIA. We might have more certainty and might be able to expect sort of a consistent number of demanding students with some sort of certification program. And so it's, question is, if we build it, will they come? And so we'll add that to the list of questions for discussion. Thank you.